Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. It is Monday, July 22nd, 2013. Raw was in Austin, Texas, the University of Texas. Show starts off with recap from last week. CM Punk, Heyman, and Brock, of course, the fight between Punk and Brock. And they also recapped Cena choosing Daniel Bryan as his SummerSlam opponent. The show starts, the arena is pitch black, and there's a drum roll, so guess who shows up? It's our general manager, Brad Maddox. He's in the ring talking, and he basically came out and sucked up to the crowd a bit. Right, and there's a table set up. We're already going to have the contract signing between Cena and Bryan. So, right, so we're going to have this contract signing. Cena comes out and he's talking, and then Daniel Bryan comes out and there's more talking, and Cena signs the contract, and then Bryan signs it, and after Bryan signs it, he goes to say something, but Maddox cuts him off by saying, there you have it, we've got it signed and everything. But yeah, so he cuts Bryan off, and then Bryan goes, "No! You're not going to cut me off," and he continues talking, and I don't remember exactly what was said between any of this stuff. Yeah. So, right. Right, so anyways, a lot of what Maddox had been saying was, some people say that Bryan doesn't really deserve this shot at Cena and the title. Some people say that he's not big enough, he's not strong enough, whatever the fuck, And, of course, the point is that Maddox is saying these things about Bryan. So, yeah. But anyways, they get to it, and what Maddox ends up saying is, we're going to have a series of matches with Daniel Bryan, where Bryan will have the opportunity to prove that he does deserve to have this match for the WWE title. So this is going to be his proving grounds, essentially. And essentially what this is going to be is a gauntlet match. And Maddox does not announce who Bryan's opponents will be, but the funny thing is, before the show, I think it was another little commercial break segment that they do sometimes, where it's during the show that's on before Raw, they'll say, okay, coming up next we've got Raw, and then they'll do something to hype something up or whatever. It might have been during that, or maybe it was, I know they did it on SmackDown, where they said that the Big Show was going to be returning on Raw. So I'm already sort of figuring, okay, the Big Show's returning, he'll probably end up being one of Daniel Bryan's opponents. Well, we'll get to that. Right, so after the whole opening segment, they hype up, because of the attack last week from The Shield attacking Mark Henry, tonight Henry's going to fire back at The Shield. So they tease that, and then they also tease Sheamus and Del Rio, which will be up next. They cut to commercial, and when they come back, Sheamus comes out and Del Rio comes out. We start having our match. This match was not that great. I honestly don't really like Sheamus all that much, and I don't really like Del Rio either. So, again, this is just my opinion, but the match did not really seem all that great. The story behind this match is you may have noticed that Sheamus wasn't on the show last week, and that's because at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which was the night before last week's Raw, Sheamus got banged up pretty bad. He got put through a ladder, and he had this really nasty bruise on his leg. So he was out last week, not really injured, but still hurt, and they didn't want him to compete, I guess. But the thing is, he competes this week, and he still has this giant bruise on his leg. It was pretty big, so... yeah. So... but anyways, the story of the match is Sheamus' leg is hurt, so Del Rio ends up working it the whole match. Of course, utilizing heel tactics, going after the obvious hurt leg. So... right, so anyways... so they're going over that in the match. Del Rio's working his leg. Del Rio gets knocked out of the ring. Trying to remember how this happened. I don't really remember. Oh, right, I think I remember. Del Rio was up on the top rope. He was going to go and dive down on Sheamus with something, but Sheamus catches him and just, like, axe handle clocks him and just knocks Del Rio out of the ring. So he's out on the floor. And then they cut to commercial. They come back, and Del Rio's back in control. It goes back and forth for a bit. Sheamus is able to get his clubbing thing. And Del Rio hits his big top rope enziguri. Sheamus was up top. With his hurt leg, you would wonder why the hell he would be stupid enough to do this. But he went up top, and Del Rio caught him with the big springboard enziguri, caught him in the face, and nailed that. And after that, Sheamus went for the white noise... but because Del Rio had been working his leg, and of course the previous injury or damage or whatever to it, Sheamus wasn't able to get him up for the white noise, and he basically collapsed down to one knee. And so Del Rio slips down the back, rolls up Sheamus, hooking the bad leg, and he was able to get the 1-2-3. So Del Rio wins with that. Like I said, overall the match was not that great. These two had a really bad feud a while back. And they had matches on like every pay-per-view for a few months in a row. And it just sucked. And to see this come back, ugh. Not really anything I want to deal with again. Like I said before, I don't really like Sheamus, and I don't really like Del Rio either. Del Rio is a decent enough wrestler, but... ugh. And Sheamus, he's not really all that good anyways, at anything. So... But yeah. So, yes, after the match, they say that later on we're going to have another Miz TV segment, this time with the Divas, and it will be hyping up the stupid Total Divas reality show that's debuting soon on the E! Network. Whatever. After they tease that, they also tease a segment being called Punk Rocked, which is obviously Punk talking about, getting beat up by Brock last week, and that's basically exactly what it is. But they tease that for later on as well, and they cut to a commercial. On the segue back into the show, they do a rewind from SmackDown. Oh, right. They do the rewind from SmackDown, which basically just recaps Vicky being made the new permanent GM of SmackDown. And that segues nicely into the next segment, which is Renee Young backstage with Booker T and Teddy Long. And the gist of this is they're really trying to push this. I don't know if it's a heel turn from Teddy or if it's just they seem that Booker T and Teddy were too buddy-buddy for a while or something, and they just wanted to drive a wedge between them. But the basic gist of it is Teddy was sick of putting up with Booker T's crap, and so, yeah, he's tired of putting up with Booker T, and so he basically says, screw you, and he walks off. And that's basically the end of that segment. And then Christian comes out into the ring, right? And then they cut to another commercial, and I'm like, you didn't even go 5 minutes without a commercial. I guess they wanted to get the commercials out of the way because there's a lot of action late in the show. So, anyways. Once the commercial is over, the Primetime Players music hits. And out come the two of them chuckle nuts. And apparently it's going to be Christian versus Titus O'Neil. Again, another match that was basically a complete waste of time. The only notes I really had about the match was Darren Young got involved from outside. Titus with his stupid whistle. He's been carrying this whistle around. He gets it into the ring while he's going against Christian. And he puts the stupid, piece in the mouth. And he's got Christian down in the corner, and he starts, stomping him. And every time he stomps, he blows the whistle. So it's like, woo, woo. It's fucking stupid. This whistle thing's just annoying and stupid. But whatever. Christian's able to come back, make his comeback, whatever. He goes for the kill switch, but Young gets up on the apron and distracts Christian. Christian kicks him off the apron, I think, and that's basically all of that. Titus was able to kind of counter for a second, but Christian still got the kill switch, nailed it, and got the win. So Christian wins. Another match that wasn't that good. After that, they recap what happened between Ryback and Jericho on SmackDown after Jericho had lost his match on SmackDown, I think. Ryback came out and beat the hell out of him and whatever. They're really just trying to push this idea of Ryback being like a schoolyard bully, seriously. But anyways, they recap that, and then of course they cut backstage where Josh Matthews is doing an interview segment with Ryback, And Ryback basically says just that. He's a schoolyard bully. He's big and strong, and he sees it's his responsibility or something to actually pick on people who are smaller and weaker. So friggin' stupid. I just don't get this at all. Right, so anyways. Right. Trying to get back here. Okay, after the stupid... Right, and Ryback is, threatening Matthews, basically. Yeah. The funny thing about this that I noticed is, Ryback and Josh Matthews, I'm pretty sure were both on the same season of Tough Enough. About 8 or 9 years ago. And Matthews almost immediately got put on TV as a commentator or as a backstage interview or whatever. But Ryback wound up spending those 8 or 9 years in frickin' developmental. Just trying to learn the basics. So, Ryback, you can threaten Matthews all you want. He's still didn't have to spend 8 or 9 years in frickin' developmental. So, you can suck it. Anyways, after that, they cut to another commercial. And after that, Mark Henry comes out. And he gets in the ring, and of course it's time for Henry to fire back. He comes out in the ring, and they recap again the fight between him and the Shield from last week. He gets the mic and he talks. And by the way, he basically spends the first few seconds of his promo sucking up to the crowd. Since they're in Texas, and since Henry himself is from Texas, he basically sucks up to the crowd, saying, "I'm a proud Texan," all this stuff. I'm like, don't you even fucking dare try to turn Henry face after the crap he just pulled with Cena, faking his own retirement. Okay, don't you dare try to turn him face after that. But yeah. He says that, and then he basically calls out the Shield. The Shield comes out, of course. And they, of course, do their usual thing where they each get on one side of the ring, and then they all try to swarm him at once, and of course it pretty much works. They swarm him, and they're beating him up. And as they're beating him up, I'm thinking, this is really just going to be a repeat of last week unless we have the friggin' Usos. And just as I'm thinking that in my head, the frickin' Usos music hits, and out they come. And I'm like, wow, how fucking predictable. So anyways, they come out and they help Henry and they chase off the Shield. Yeah. And during this time, one of the commentators, I think it was Cole or maybe it was JBL, of course one of the idiots on the frickin' team, they say, wow, we don't normally see the Shield get chased off like this. And I'm like, yeah, unless you count, all the frickin' times it's happened in the last couple of months, which has been pretty often, actually. Frickin' seriously. The Shield was stomping main eventers like The Undertaker, like The Rock, like Cena, like Ryback. Although I don't really want to call Ryback a fucking main eventer. But they were stomping people like that. They were putting down frickin' Team Hell No and Randy Orton. And all these other people. And now they're being beat up by the Job Squad, frickin' the Usos, and Mark Henry. I really don't like how they're doing this. Whatever. But after that, they cut backstage to the locker room where Bryan is basically getting ready for his series of matches that will be coming up later. And up comes Cena. And they go back and forth talking. And the basic gist of it is Bryan tells Cena, I don't need your help. I don't want you out there. Don't interfere. That's the basic gist of it. After that, they cut to another commercial. And when they come back, Darren Young is in the ring. And I'm like, okay, well, we got Titus earlier. Here's Young now. Who's he going against? Ziggler's music hits. And out he comes. And I'm like, oh, hey, we might actually get a decent match. Even with Darren Young in it. So Ziggler, of course, gets in the ring. And he gets in the ring, and we start having a match. Or no, he gets in the he starts coming out, and they recap the segment from SmackDown where after Ziggler had won his match with whoever the hell it was, he cut his promo saying that he should have dumped AJ a lot sooner, and then of course it cuts to the back where AJ freaks the hell out and gets calmed down by Big E and then that stuff. So they recap that whole thing. But yeah, then they start having the match. And this match actually was decent. The only real notes I took from it is Ziggler hits one hell of a damn drop kick on Young. And like full on both feet right in the face. He nails it on this guy. And of course, I think Titus was getting involved, of course, but whatever. Trying to remember exactly what happened. I think Young went for some move, but Ziggler slipped out of it down the back and just jumps up and hits the zigzag and gets the win. But either way, Ziggler won. After the match, however, Ziggler's celebrating, showing off, of course, like he normally does, because he's a badass like that. Out of nowhere comes Big E, and he tries to attack Ziggler, but Ziggler turns around at the last second and sees it coming. He's able to kind of dodge first, but they start, kind of getting into a little fight, and Ziggler is able to duck a clothesline, basically, and then Big E turns around to come back at him, and Ziggler spins around and grabs him and throws him out of the ring. And then Big E gets up immediately, and he goes to dive back in the ring. And as he's diving back in the ring, Ziggler dives out of the ring and gets the hell out of there. And so he escapes once again. Yeah, so again, Ziggler comes out looking like $1 million here. Well, don't know if I want to say that good, but he comes out looking good. It's looking like this feud is going to happen. We're going to have Ziggler versus Big E. And Big E's basically only fighting on AJ's behalf. But anyways, they tease the punk rocked segment again for later. And they say that the Miz TV segment is up next. And they cut to a commercial. And when they come back, Miz is in the ring with all the divas. They're in the ring too. They're sitting in like little director's chairs, basically. And, well, it's not all of the divas. I have to make sure I make note of this, because it's only the divas who are unfortunate enough to be stuck in this crappy reality show. It's the Bella Twins and the Funkadactyls, along with Natalia, and the two new girls, JoJo and Eva Marie. And this segment essentially serves as the official debut of Eva Marie and Coco, but specifically Eva Marie. What basically happens is, after they roll a clip from the reality show, and I say a clip, it goes on for 3-4 minutes, and I'm like, what the fuck is the point of this? Nobody cares. Is anybody really interested in watching this show? I really doubt it. There's no reason to watch it. We don't need to see the supposed backstage drama between the divas. Most of them are friends in real life, so why the hell would we see some fake bullshit drama between them? So... Right. After they finally roll the damn clip, Miz introduces all the divas in turn, of course. And at the end, I think he was basically throwing a burn at Jerry Lawler, because he also says, and Jerry Lawler. But he says he wants King to come in and be the MC or whatever. Don't know why we need an MC when Miz is supposed to be the host of this, it's Miz TV. Why we need an MC for this bullshit. But anyways, Jerry gets in the ring, and Miz basically says, are you familiar with the divas? And Jerry's basically like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, he basically goes over that. He says he knows the Funkadactyls, and he knows the Bellas, and he knows Natalya from way back, since, of course, she's been, she's been in the business a while, and she's, of course, from a wrestling family, so she's been around the business for pretty much her whole life. But yeah. But then he says, I don't really know too much about this JoJo or this Eva Marie, and he kind of shakes hands with JoJo. She seems nice and whatever. But then he goes to shake hands with Eva Marie, and she stands up, and she says, I don't like the way you're looking at me. And then she slaps him in the face. But it looks really weak. And the way she talked sounded awful. This whole segment was just really weak. And after she slaps Jerry, he gets the hell out of the ring and goes back to the commentary table. And The Miz just basically outros the segment. And it's over. Fucking waste of time. No one's going to watch this stupid reality show. Nobody cares. This Eva Marie chick, no charisma from the sound of it, and she really weak slap. Guess I won't really be able to tell much until she actually has a freaking match, which something tells me we're gonna be forced to sit through that sometime soon. I don't know, maybe she's already had a match on, like, Main Event or Superstars or something. I doubt it, but whatever. After they get done with that segment, there's another commercial break, and when they come back, Brad Maddox is in his office, and then up comes Triple H. And Triple H is basically just, talking down Brad, saying, I don't like that you're kind of dissing Daniel Bryan and whatever the fuck. The whole thing here is that Triple H is supposed to be for the little guys like Bryan and stuff, and Vince, of course, is supposed to be the one who's against it, because Vince is an idiot. But the whole thing, this stupid McMahon thing, I don't care or want to see any more of it. But yeah, so Triple H is there, and he's talking Brad down, saying, why you no like Bryan, and basically what it seems like is Bryan is trying to, or not Bryan, Maddox is trying to please Mr. McMahon, and he's doing that by talking down Bryan and forcing Bryan into these multiple matches, and trying to make him prove himself, prove that he's worthy and all this crap. But yeah, so there's that crap. Triple H leaves, And then Stephanie comes up out of nowhere. And she, blah, don't care. More bullshit. After that, the announcers decide to segue into another Wyatt family video. But this time it's just a recap of what they've done so far. Of course, attacking Kane, and then attacking R-Truth last week, and apparently on Main Event or Superstars last week, they pretty much destroyed all three members of the 3MB, which nobody really gives a fuck about them, so. But yeah, so they do that. We don't actually get to see the Wyatt family at all tonight. Thank God, I don't really give a fuck. After that, Fandango comes out. And he gets in the ring, and then they cut to another commercial. When they come back, Damian Sandow is on commentary, so apparently he came out during the break. And then they hit Cody Rhodes music, and out he comes. And of course they recap what happened between Cody and Sandow on SmackDown, the whole being the protector of the case bullshit, whatever the fuck. But yeah, so it's going to be Fandango and Cody in a match. And didn't take a whole lot of notes on this. It was a decent match. The finish is Sandow was basically trying to interfere in the match. He gets up on the apron with the briefcase. And Johnny's over there by the briefcase. Cody jumps off the ropes and does his little disaster kick. And it looks like he kicked the briefcase into Johnny's face. And I'm thinking, why wasn't that a DQ? But there's no DQ, for some reason. After hitting the disaster kick with the briefcase, he gets Johnny up and he hits the crossroads on him. And he pins him and he gets the win. So, whatever. They tease the punk rock segment once again, although it's next. And they cut to another commercial break. And when they come back, Punk comes out. And he's talking about Brock and Heyman, of course. And the gist of it is, he says that most of the people are afraid of Brock because he's so big and strong and because of all this and that. But yeah, he says that, you know what, I'm not afraid of Brock. I don't care how big or how strong you are. I don't care how many titles you've held here in the WWE or in the UFC. I don't care. I'm not afraid of you. You play off of the fear, and I'm not going to let you do that. That's basically the gist of what he says. And so, right. And then he basically says that he wants a match at SummerSlam, him and Brock, one-on-one. And Heyman pops up on the Titantron, and apparently it's live via satellite. And he goes back and forth with Punk, whatever the fuck. And Heyman basically says, you know what? We accept your challenge. You're going to have your match against Brock at SummerSlam. So, yeah. That's basically the end of that segment. They cut backstage to RVD walking through one of the hallways. Apparently he's got a match coming up next. They cut to another commercial. As they come back, they tease Del Rio versus RVD for SmackDown. And also when they come back, Wade Barrett is in the ring. And then RVD comes out. So we're going to have Wade Barrett versus RVD. This match was pretty much shit. Just like every match. Well, not every match, but pretty much just like every match RVD has had for a while. Like I said, the match sucked. It was basically Barrett in control for most of the match, pretty much dominating, and he was basically smothering RVD. He's got him in a headlock for most of the match. It was really boring, but RVD finally starts to come back. He does his same old shtick, doing the springboard kicks and all this other crap, and Barrett ends up bleeding from the nose and the mouth area. I'm guessing Rob still doesn't know how to pull his fucking kicks. But whatever, RVD hits the 5-star and he gets the win. They cut backstage to Brian walking through one of the hallways. Apparently we're getting ready for the main event, the gauntlet, basically, of Daniel Bryan against whoever his opponents are. That's up next. They cut to a commercial break, and when they come back, Bryan comes out, and then I don't know what to call it. The theme music for Swagger and Coulter and Cesaro hits. You know, the real American sort of thing. So the three of them come out, and Zeb's talking on the way, and his basic little story this time is once again, you know, great American, the founding father of Austin, Texas, would be ashamed of what the people of Austin, Texas do today, and again, just more of this really lame, boring shit that nobody cares about. So, but he's talking, and basically it gets down to the fact that it's going to be Swagger versus Bryan right now. So, Swagger gets in the damn ring finally after stalling for way too damn long. But he gets in the ring and we start having our match. Bryan versus Swagger, one-on-one, but of course Zeb and Cesaro at ringside. This match was not that great. Swagger dominates for the most part, and then Bryan is able to lock in the no-lock, or again the yes-lock, or whatever the hell you want to call it. He gets it locked in, and Swagger taps like a bitch, and that's it for that one. And apparently, the next match is going to be Bryan versus Cesaro. So that's up next. We cut to a commercial break. We come back, and Bryan and Cesaro are going at it. And this match turned out to be pretty damn good. Cesaro dominates for the early bit of it. Another cool thing about this match is it went for a while. Bryan and Swagger wasn't really all that long, so they didn't really have time to put on a decent match. I hate how they do this. But I guess they figured Bryan and Cesaro would put on a damn good match, and they did, because both of them are indie guys. They know what the hell they're doing. They've met each other on the indie scene before. And it really showed here, because these guys really put on a damn good match. Like I said, Cesaro started dominating early. Bryan started making a comeback. Bryan went up to the top rope, and Swagger from the outside, from the apron basically, pushes Bryan off the top rope, and Bryan falls into another one of those big-ass European uppercuts from Cesaro. Cesaro went for cover, only got a 2 count. And then they cut to a commercial. When they come back, Bryan's making a comeback. He goes up top again, but gets countered by Cesaro. Cesaro starts trying to go for a superplex, but Bryan is able to counter out of it. He slips down and he goes down in between Cesaro's legs, and then he grabs Cesaro and brings him down into the Tree of Woe and just starts kicking the hell out of him. And then he goes across the ring and he comes screaming back and gets a big drop kick. And then he gets Cesaro up on the top rope, facing backwards, and he's going to go for a big super back suplex. But as he goes for it, Cesaro counters it, of course, into like a crossbody thing. And again, there was like a 2 count, whatever. And then they both get up, and they're trading like the European uppercuts, going back and forth with this stuff, and then one guy hits a series, and then the other guy stops him and hits another series, and they're going back and forth with it. It's just really, really hard shots, too. And Cesaro finally gets the upper hand with it, and then he grabs Bryan and brings him into this real stiff, hard clothesline, and Bryan flips all the way over and fucking goddamn looked bad. Cesaro goes for the neutralizer, but Bryan counters it and backdrops out of it. And after that, he locks in the Indian Deathlock and starts doing the forearm shots. And after that, Cesaro rolls out of the ring, and he's over there with Swagger. And Bryan hits the other ropes and comes through and does the suicide dive. And he wipes them both out. Oh, right. And then, let's see, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. Cesaro and Bryan get back into the ring. And I think Bryan hit the ropes and was coming to do something, but Cesaro lifts him up like Flapjack or whatever. And I guess he was going to lift him up for that and hit another big European uppercut. But what ended up happening is as Bryan came down, he cinched up Cesaro, rolled him into a small package, and got the win with it. So Bryan's able to beat Cesaro as well. After that, they cut back to Maddox in his office, and for some strange reason, Alex Riley is standing there with him. And he actually kind of talks to him, and I'm like, what the hell is Alex Riley doing here? We haven't seen him in months. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned him at all during this show at all. We haven't seen him since way before friggin' WrestleMania. It's been a long time since we've seen him because he basically had his shot, floundered, and did nothing. So they decided to, put him back down on, superstars and main event and shit. We haven't really seen him. I don't really get this. I don't know if they're trying to bring him back up. Wouldn't make any sense because I really doubt he's improved at all. He was never really all that good to begin with. He even sucked when he was on NXT. But, yeah, again, weird, don't know why, but the basic gist of it was, the basic gist of it was, Riley looks at him and he's like, well, what do you think of that, Brad? And Brad's like, wait till he sees his next opponent. And I'm thinking, okay, they teased up the Big Show was going to be returning, so of course his opponent would have to be Big Show. They cut to commercial, and when they come back, Ryback's music hits. And out he comes. And I'm like, where the fuck is Big Show? They were advertising him to make his return, and then he just doesn't show up. But yeah, this wound up being the last match of this little gauntlet match, essentially. So it's Bryan versus Ryback. And despite Ryback being in this match, it was actually good. Starts off with Ryback dominating. I noticed there was a "You Can't Wrestle" chant directed at Ryback. Ryback goes for a Thez press, but Bryan counters it into a half crab. And of course, Ryback had his history with the leg injury or whatever the fuck, so they were like, oh god, is he going to tap out like a bitch again? But no, he makes it to the ropes. Ryback goes for the meat hook, but Bryan counters it as Ryback is charging. Bryan jumps up and hits him with a high knee. And, of course, Ryback staggers backwards into the corner, and Bryan does his big charging drop kick. He does it once, he does it twice, I think, and then as he's coming in the third time, Ryback counters with a clothesline. And he goes out of the ring, and he gets a table and sets it up. And I'm like, why the fuck are you setting up a table? You're going to get disqualified. But as Ryback is stupidly setting up this table, Bryan does his suicide dive again and knocks Ryback into the announce table. And then after that, they both get up and I think Ryback threw Bryan into the stairs at ringside, and then he gets the table set up good and proper. They both get back into the ring, and Bryan's doing his kicks, and there's some countering. Don't really remember exactly what. Bryan hits the big missile front drop kick from the top rope. And then he gets the no-lock locked in, but Ryback is able to tough it out and make it to the ropes and get a rope break. So he gets rope break. Ryback gets dumped out to the outside. And Bryan goes out onto the apron. And he goes for that big flying knee from the apron. But Ryback catches him and spins him. And just, it looked like he basically dropped him. But it looked like a powerbomb right on the floor. And they're right over by the announce table where Ryback also has his table set up. And as it was happening, I'm like, oh shit, is he going to powerbomb him through the table? But no, he just lands on the floor. And it looked really rough, so I was thinking Bryan might have been hurt there, but no, he was okay. After that, Ryback picks Bryan up, and he sets him up for a powerbomb, and he picks him up, and he powerbombs him through the table, and gets himself disqualified. So, Bryan wins by DQ, but apparently Ryback wasn't done with Bryan. He wanted to, again, continue his little bullying thing. So he picks him up, he's trying to pick him up and do more damage, and then all of a sudden, Cena's music hits, and out he comes, and he fights off Ryback, and Ryback is walking up the ramp, he's leaving, but Cena gets a mic, and says he wants Ryback in a tables match. And he's not really all that specific about, like when, but apparently they decide to make it for next week. So, we've got that's going to happen, apparently. So, yeah, Cena wants Ryback in a tables match, and that's basically going to happen next week. After this, they cut back to Maddox in his office again, and of course he's watching what's happening. And then Vince comes up, and Vince is again basically pressuring Maddox into making a match, and Vince is like, he should go against somebody who's bigger than him, somebody who's stronger than them, somebody who's a former friend. And at first I was thinking he was teasing Big Show, and then I'm like, oh, former friend, what do you want him to go against, Kane? Sure enough, yeah, apparently it's going to be Daniel Bryan and Kane next week. They cut back to the ring, and Bryan's okay now. He's doing his yes, yes, yes thing again with the crowd. And no Big Show whatsoever. So apparently something went wrong there, and we weren't able to do that. Not like I care. But yeah, if you're going to advertise something, you might want to deliver it. I know they know this, but whatever. That's the end of the show. Overall, the show was It was okay. The last couple matches with Bryan really saved the show. The match with Ryback was good. The match with Cesaro was really damn good. The first match with Swagger, though, wasn't that great, but it was pretty short, so... Barrett and RVD sucked. Fandango and Cody Rhodes was decent. Ziggler versus Darren Young was decent. And then you had the two first matches. Christian and Titus O'Neil wasn't that good. And Sheamus and Del Rio wasn't that good either. So, yeah. That was Raw. Like I said, overall the show was alright, but it was really saved by Bryan's stuff. So apparently next week we've got Cena versus Ryback in a tables match. Don't know why it has to be a tables match, but whatever. We also gonna have Bryan versus Kane, and I'm betting that this is where the Wyatt family is finally gonna come back. Not like I really give a shit about them either. But we will see what goes on with that. So we'll see what happens with that, and that'll be Raw next week. Don't know what's going to happen with SmackDown. So yeah, like I said, don't really know what's going to happen next week with, next week with SmackDown, and later this week with, next week with Raw, and later this week with SmackDown. I've heard that the next few shows, Raw and SmackDown, are going to be taped. A lot of them are going to be taped this week, as a matter of fact. Apparently, they're going to be taping a whole bunch of shows because they're going on an Australian tour, and I think they're going to be going on tour to some other countries as well. But, so yeah, a bunch of the stuff from... There's probably going to be spoilers ahead of time, so... Really don't know what to think about that, but... We'll get to that as it airs on TV, and we will see what happens with that. Next show will probably be SmackDown, and I might actually be able to watch SmackDown live on Friday. Not live, but I'll actually be able to watch it on SmackDown as it happens, or as it is aired on TV. So we'll see about that. If nothing else, it might be Saturday or Sunday like usual. We will see how that goes. But that does it for Raw tonight, live from Austin, Texas, the University of Texas, from July 22nd, 2013. We will see you for SmackDown, so do stay tuned for that. We will see you next time.